We're just waiting for a few minutes to let people start joining from LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitter if they're joining. So we'll get started at the top of the hour. But hopefully, if you are joining us, say hello. I'm watching the comments to see if anybody joins. And we'll get started at the top of the hour. All right. It looks like actually it looks like it's top of the hour now. So welcome everybody. If you're joining us on YouTube, on LinkedIn, Twitter, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. It's a pleasure to have you. Please let us know in the comments if you're joining us. Say hello. It's good to see those familiar faces. We'll probably see some people jumping in as they start moving, realizing that we're live and thinking about lunch and listening to us talk. So once again, today is May 20th, 2022. This is the Cutaway Security ICS Friday Infosec chat. Hopefully you're coming back to see what Cutaway Security has been doing for the week, what I've been doing for the week, and also to kind of ask questions about things that might have happened to you during the week and so forth. So good afternoon. I see a few people joining us from Ottawa, Canada. Thank you for joining us. So it's morning. Yes. Okay. Yeah, actually it's morning here too. And I'm on Central Time, so it's 10 o'clock. It's good to see you, and thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, any comments, please put them into the chat. I can see the LinkedIn chat stuff, but I can't respond. I can post a comment, responding back. I'll have to do it voice for everybody that's joining via LinkedIn because StreamYard just doesn't allow us to comment back to LinkedIn right now. So hopefully they'll get that soon. But thanks for joining us. It's good to see you. And yeah, so let's jump right into it. Right now, nobody's joined, but I've put the StreamYard link out there. So hopefully maybe we have some people joining. I see Wes. Good morning, Wes. Thanks for joining us again. Look forward to your comments and your questions as well. So what did we do at Cutaway Security this week? Well, kind of continuing the project that we did a couple weeks ago. Last week, finished up the ICS 410 class in San Diego, talked about that in our last InfoSec Friday chat. And so you know about that. But now we've gotten back to our normal work schedule, continuing the documentation review for a vendor and looking at their implementation of a specific product, identifying different ways. Today I'm actually working on a portion of documenting the logging for the application and detailing some tests to ensure that the logs are being generated correctly, they're being centralized, and so forth. So it's interesting seeing these products and how they log differently. What's a challenge around some of these old applications, and why I say old is that a lot of vendors, especially in the utility industry, they've built upon years and years um, of their products. And so and now I'm getting kind of like a deeper dive, deeper understanding of the application, how it was, and you can see how it was developed over time, migrated to newer technologies, but still leveraging some of the older techniques, databases, and so forth, that just, I don't want to say didn't get updated, but, because certainly that's a part of the update process, but it's worked, and so it's a part of their core application, and they're challenged for integrating some of those things, and because they've looked at it from a functionality standpoint, and fortunately now, especially with our help, they're starting to look at it more from a security. What questions as a security professional do I have about this product? What concerns do I have about logging and monitoring? What's getting logged, where are those logs being sent, and so forth. And so they've while they might have had people talk to them about this before, for the specific product, I'm getting the opportunity to ask those questions again to point some things out. And it's always good to break out of our box. And I'm always concerned about doing too much work in a specific field uh, by myself. And why I say that is because I'm a human like anybody else. I get in my own little box. I start thinking about how I do things and what's been successful for me, and my understandings, drawing on my years of experience. But at the same time, I'm biased. I'm biased to what's worked for me. And it doesn't mean that it's accurate for that implementation. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't be expanding my views of how different people do things and approach problems. And I really need to understand why decisions were made, and then to make better recommendations. And I think that, and actually, last week I was talking with some people that are just new to this field, and looking for some guidance a little bit. And that's one of the things that I had to kind of bring around. Very experienced in information security, but have um, this understanding and approach that they're bringing over from the corporate world and trying to apply it on within the corporate or the control environment, and then or they're new to the information security field, and they're taking those experiences that they get that were designed for the corporate environment and trying to apply them within the control environment, not realizing that the impacts of some of those things. And so I know I'm being kind of generic, but that's the best way I can describe that. Um, you know, so I have to come back around. I have to remind myself that I do need those experiences of the people that are implementing things and uh, um, expanding my viewpoint on things. So kind of digressing, but I see Daniel's joining us. Hello, Daniel. We're looking forward to your questions and your inputs as well. So that's what I'm doing this week, just working with vendors and well, a team that's assisting a vendor with their documentation. Continuing that, that'll go into my next week, and then I'm actually in 2 weeks going out to the SANS ICS Summit out in Orlando. Looking forward to seeing a lot of people. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be a little bit smaller than we were hoping because there's still some travel restrictions the on certain groups. You know, and they can't show up in person, but they'll be doing a lot of that. So if you're not aware of that, in 2 weeks, starting in June, we're going to have a 2-day ICS Summit, which is going to be in person in Orlando, but also online. So we'll set some time aside. We've got some good talks that are lined up for that. Actually, I'm going to try to do my ICS concept series while I'm there, doing quick interviews with some of the speakers after their talks, after before kind of getting an elevator speech for them. So eventually, all of it will get up on the SANS ICS YouTube channel, the full talks, but just to give kind of audio input, that's always a challenge. I can't hear myself, so getting that out there. So, like I said, if there's any questions, comments, this is our time to chat about what you've done during this week. Obviously, I don't have somebody to join, but let me know if you have any comments. We talk about, let me quit some things. Maybe it's the system resources. I'm not sure, but I'm going to quit some processes real quick. Looks like I have a few things going, so maybe that will assist, but yeah, just quitting a few things that might be taking up some of the network stuff. Okay, well, I really appreciate it, and the that input. I don't think I can do anything more on my side. My settings are set to the Yeti, and I'm right in front of it. The gain's all the way up, so it's those network things when we need the networking, right? Those network things when we need the networking. Okay, so what was I talking about? I was talking about the CISA alerts and that VMware Workspace One. And if I'm correct in what that service is, and they do have a service that is, I mean, the best way I can describe it, it's like Citrix. It provides an actual system of kind of like a laptop or a desktop system, but of course it's virtual. It's you log into it, and it's a VM that's provided through the VMware service. And what that means is that a user will authenticate to it. You can tie it to all of your authentication mechanisms, and so you can leverage secure logins with your accounts. MFA, set it up for MFA. But what my concern around that is that when I saw it initially implemented, because it was outside the organization, in other words, it was not a system that was in the network. And it's not a system that would necessarily be within your control network, but you still have to provide that networking. You still have to provide the users with applications and connectivity that allows them to get to the resources that they need. And you can lock those down, but you have to take specific steps to lock them down. It's somebody, basically whenever we're doing something in the cloud, and this is an example of one of VMware's cloud services, we are kind of offloading the security considerations for that system to them. And so my concern around that, especially with the implementation that I saw, is that the administrators were just taking and loading up default Windows and a default Windows install. Because it's not necessarily tied to Active Directory, it was not getting the benefit of the group policy objects that our organization was using at that time. I'm not sure if the Workspace One can be integrated with that, but certainly you can make some local security policies to apply to these systems. In other words, however you set up the operating system will consistently boot up with those security configurations, but you have to do it. You can't just install. If you install Windows, it will have the default security policies installed. And that's a concern for me because I mean, there are Windows services that you have to manage. You do have to implement the security policy to reduce the services that are running, to harden different things depending on the operating systems. They're all different, and so you have to take some hardening steps on these systems before you allow your teams to implement that. So, and then obviously we have to be concerned about the vulnerabilities that are apply to the systems associated with that vendor's implementation. And certainly in this case, it's obviously VMware. I'm not sure if this is a server backend thing or if this is a once you're within a system within a workspace, it actually applies, the vulnerability applies to multiple VMware I guess software as a service or systems as a service. So you should go read the alert. But Workspace One is one of those things that administrators will just spin up and not realize that they need to harden it as well. They think they're getting that operating system from VMware. They think that possibly that they've taken those security issues into consideration. But you have to remember, first of all, Microsoft doesn't know how you're going to implement that operating system, and neither does VMware. So just because they're managing the infrastructure that supports those systems, it doesn't mean they've accepted all of the security and configuration responsibilities. There's still some responsibility that lies on our organizations to ensure that it's implemented correctly, that it's integrated with all of our services correctly before we allow people to have access. I mean, I really like the service. It's I consider it like a jump host that can provide access, and we can install very specific things that only the things that whoever we're configuring it to allow access in. So whether it's a vendor integrator or it's our own process engineers, owners, or not owners and operators, but field technicians and operators, it's a good way to ensure that their laptops, even if their laptops are compromised, that compromised laptop is not accessing the environment. If you want to know more about remote access, jump hosts, and so forth, go look at the controlthings.io. So controlthings.io, and look at the resources page. I'm going to post the in the comments for the YouTube crowd. I just posted a link in there that goes to the controlthings.io resources page. And if you scroll down, I think it's the bottom link. Justin Searle goes through and he gives an hour-long webcast on talking about the remote access and some of the good practices around that, some of the things that should be taken into consideration. And like I said, he goes into it for like an hour, describing the situation and outlining good approaches to addressing that, because we have to allow access. So we should come at it with an informed with some information that will help us with the conversation of how to improve the situation. All right, so that was the first CISA alert that I saw. That's actively being exploited in the wild. So we do have to take in consideration, and people should be looking at what's good about that is that if you go look through some of the links, scroll down to the bottom, they outline, the alerts outline how to detect exploitation of these vulnerabilities. And, it might require some things get set up. In other words, having the vision into the activities that people are doing on these systems. You have some indicators that can help you identify this. So if we can't prevent, so we should be hardening to prevent certain things, but even if we are preventing, we definitely have to detect and respond. So understanding how to detect these things, and then realizing that we have to have a response. We have to have a relationship with the administrators for those systems. We also have a relationship, communicate with the vendor. So in this case, the VMware as well. We should be prepared for that. And if that's not a part of your run book, playbook, however your team calls it, then perhaps you need to take those into consideration. A lot of times these cloud services, it's surprise IT. So it's shadow IT, surprise IT that you might not realize that your team is leveraging and doing. So looking at your different accounts, whether it's AWS, VMware, Citrix, definitely looking at those configurations, understanding how the different business units in your organization are leveraging those. You might be surprised to find that, yes, you do have VMware Workspace One out there being implemented. Many of our organizations have found their shadow IT, and of course that leads to the problem of those situations. You don't have the prevention, and you definitely don't have the detection and response capabilities for that. So look into that. And sure, if you have any comments or questions about these situations, what we're talking about here, please put that up on the in the comments. I can see it, and I'll be happy to respond. The next thing, the threat actors exploiting the F5 BigIP. And we've seen this consistently. We have to provide remote access into our control environments. There has to be some method. And if you go watch Justin's webcast on that, you'll see that he talks about different ways to leverage VPN to gain access. But those VPNs that are threat actors that are trying to get into control environments, they realize the necessity for these assets. They realize that people need access, and they're going to use VPNs that are configured to allow authentication to get in. So they're going to look for credentials first, but they're also going to be monitoring for vulnerabilities. And I've talked about it before. Like the Pulse VPN vulnerabilities were really bad because of Pulse VPN's capability of integrating directly within to Active Directory. That consideration. I'm not sure if the F5 BigIP has. They are able to download the credentials that were uploaded to that system, to that VPN. And that would be the risk here. Were they able to get access, administrative level access to the system? Did they do anything internally, such as with their elevated privileges of that system, such as grabbing the Active Directory user credentials? Did they start pivoting internally? Was some of that data stored within the VPN, and so they're able to collect that and pull that out? All of these things are questions that your team should be asking and investigating if you have these outside of your control environments. So it's these are a big concern. The other thing that wanted to talk about, and this kind of just comes back around, it's I've been doing a lot of work on the NCAS scripts, the NERC SIP assessment scripts. I don't know if I like that name, but that's what I'm working with right now. And I mean, because it was initially started, the project was initially started for the to do a collection for NERC assessments. And basically the collector script goes through and gets everything that is required by some of the NERC policies. And and every organization is required to keep track, do asset management. And asset management means both hardware, the actual physical devices and systems, but also software on those systems as well. And so that's what these scripts are designed to do, is to go and collect that information that they're required to monitor and ensure that that it is any updates and changes follow the regular change management. And so that collector script did that. And so I really like it. And I didn't invent anything on this. I basically just went out, Googled some of the good methods for gathering information. Fortunately, got some feedback from the community about checking uninstall registry keys. And also, I just took it upon myself to list out certain directories, both the program files directories, and also just the root directory, the system drive, so to speak, on a Windows system, because a lot of vendors install not in the program directories, they actually install on the system drive for whatever reason. And so understanding that and that list, it might not be tied to an uninstall key. This way, by listing out all of those locations, you get probably a good indication of what the software inventory is on that system. And so why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because you need to track that. Not only do you need to track that, but now once you have that information, you can start looking for vulnerabilities. And and I just recently added and moved this over from Cutaway Security Tools over to the NCAS Scripts. And that is the CPE to CVE script. And I really enjoy this. It helped us a lot in this project that we're working on currently. But what you can do is you can take your list of installed software and you can generate a CPE, common, it's either product or program enumeration value. So CPE, I think it's a common product enumeration value. And what that is that's just the versioning information. It's a specific string that's outlined by that protocol. And so for every one of the software versions that are installed, you can generate that string. If you add that to a list, it's just the list would be a file that has on one line every CPE value, whether it's version 2 or 3. If you have that in a file, run it, use this script, the CPE to CVE script. Now you can get all of the CVEs in a comma separated value, comma value separated. I always get those flipped up. So you get basically you can get an Excel spreadsheet of all of the vulnerability information for each one of those products. And now you can take that and go back and identify what you should be addressing and prioritize that. And I think that's good. The reason why I brought this up is because of that Workspace One. If we're going to be hardening those, if we're going to be understanding what's installed on them, we need to collect information about that. And we should be tracking it so that we know when we need to update those systems. And this is one of the methods that we can use. If you don't have a method, if you don't have this integrated into your Windows update platforms, you're going to have to do it manually. And this is a case where you might have to do that manually. So just kind of providing options to everybody out there for that. And we're getting towards the close of the hour, so I haven't seen any questions. I appreciate everybody that's that's showing up. Wes and Daniel, definitely good to see you guys coming back. I guess no questions. Apologize about the volume stuff. It's just a part of it. It's and I appreciate you helping me to troubleshoot that. As far as going through the the CISA alerts. I highly recommend you keep track of those. Just by listening to Twitter and following some specific people out on Twitter or on LinkedIn associated with this industrial control environments. If you follow them, usually they kick out those links as well, so you can get a good understanding of when those are coming out. But you can obviously subscribe to the site, or just kind of do that as your daily or weekly reading. Go out and look at that. They've been doing an excellent job recently associated with these alerts, providing some really good detail around identifying it, getting the actionable intelligence out there for you, and also, it's going to help you with prevention, detection, and response if you're using that correctly. So hopefully you're assigning your teams, you're looking at this, but you're also, making sure that they have that as well. How much cloud integration are you seeing in the field where you work? So right now, we're taking Daniel's quick question. It's increasing. I'm seeing more people talk about it than implementing it, and I think that's good, because more integrators, more vendors, more integrators are going to start using those services. And yes, I'm seeing more and more people talk about it, but still there's some hesitation on the implementation. But that, I think, is just the industry that I'm working in right now. I'm doing a lot of utility stuff right now, so I think that plays into it. And because it's mostly brownfield, so solutions that have been up and running for a while, not as many greenfields. So hopefully that answers your question, Daniel. We're at the bottom of the hour, so I probably can't go. We can certainly discuss that a lot. Highly recommend people look to, if you're not familiar with the cloud, start looking at Cloud Guru is a good place to learn stuff about different cloud implementations, some small quick lessons. It does cost, but very informative implementation lessons out there. They also have a security course. And then, of course, SANS cloud training has had a huge increase in both the classes, the type of classes, but also in popularity. They're doing a really good job out there. So hope to see you guys out there. Other than that, thanks once again for joining us for another Cutaway Security ICS Friday Infosec chat. I really appreciate it. I keep coming back. We don't have a lot of people listening right now, but I really enjoy everybody that is jumping in, providing comments, and supporting us. So thank you very, very, very much for that. And we hope to see you next week. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next Friday. Take care.